I'm so glad you're here listening to the Sustain Your Passion podcast. I'm Genesis, your host and business development expert. If you're ready to make a bigger impact and income while helping others, then you're in the right place. Thanks for joining me, and I can't wait to help you sustain your passion. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Sustain Your Passion. Today, I have a guest with me, and I'm so excited to get to know Kelli and share more about the world of coaching and all that goes into finding your coaching niche. Because if you are a new coach, you know that's one of the worst questions there is. Like, what do you do? Who do you help? As a new coach, it feels like that could be something you spend forever trying to figure out. But today, Kelli and I are going to talk and hopefully get her a little bit closer to her coaching niche. So, hi, Kelli. Thanks for being here. Can you please just introduce yourself? Tell us where you are, what you do, that kind of thing.
Hi, yes, I am Kelli Fitzgerald. I am currently in Chicago. But I'm originally from Washington State. I'm from a small town near the Olympic National Forest.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's pretty flat here, so I miss the mountains.
I bet.
So in terms of career, so I am currently in a product management role for HR technology, a very strange career path. So I actually started my career as an employment attorney. And that's kind of how I ended up in Chicago, because I went to the University of Michigan for law school, and I have a ton of friends still in the Chicago area. So I recently decided to move back here to be closer to my friends. But in any event, so I started out as an employment lawyer. And I did not know at the time that I had ADHD, but that became somewhat of an issue. So, sitting for long hours, writing papers was a real challenge, and I didn't have coping skills to be able to figure out how to make that something that I didn't hate doing.
Yeah.
So I ended up leaving law, and I went and I was trying to look for a career that I could use the skills that I had, and I ended up in HR. And so I was in employee relations / HR business partnering roles. And I ended up at Amazon, and I was at Amazon. I ended up, like, I was still in an employee relations and HR business partnering role, and then I ended up helping build this piece of technology that Amazon was going to use to track all of their internal investigations worldwide. And so I spent about 2 years on that. And so I ended up in this product / tech role. And anyway, and then my career continues to be a little scattered. I left Amazon and I went to Zulily as an HR business partner. And while I was at Zulily, I ended up being the interim director for the UX team for a little while. Simply just because Zulily was in a transition state, and so they just needed people to fill gaps temporarily. And then I ended up in a role as a marketing director for about a year, working on the marketing programs. And then I left there because I wanted to move to Chicago. So and now I am at a small company that does basically, it's trying to be the Uber for temporary workers, like temporary hourly workers. So it's like this on-demand, find temporary workers that can show up today type of a thing. So and working on the technology for that. So anyway, yes, but now I want to, change careers yet again.
As a true ADHDer would, yes.
Yes. So, it's ADHD, right? It's ADHD, but it's also, I'm 44, and it's kind of coming to terms with some things that I wish I had come to terms with many years ago about what it is that makes people truly happy, and what it is I really need and want out of life, as opposed to just going along with what society told me I should want, or what would make me feel better about myself, right? By these external things making me feel better about myself. And so I was pursuing, more money and more success, and I wanted that promotion, and I wanted to do something of significance inside of a company. And and that gave me some temporary feelings, of well-being, right? Some temporary, like, oh, that was outstanding, I was very successful, I did that thing.
Mm,
But the life that I had built wasn't really the life that I wanted,
mm,
right?
mm,
It was not the life that I want, that would make me feel, that made me feel truly satisfied and happy. Like, I forgo having children. I wasn't in a marriage that I loved. And so it's just, so I started trying to figure out what I could do differently, like what I could do to connect with people more, because I also wasn't, I was spending all my time working. So I wasn't making a lot of friends and pursuing things that would make me happy. I was just so focused on work, work, work. And
mm.
so I spent I've spent since 2021 now, since 2021, trying to figure out like what it was going on with me that was getting in my way. And so I've read every book I get my hands on about ADHD.
Mm.
And at some point, I was like, you know what? I think I want to be an ADHD coach.
Ah.
So I called my friend and I was like, because I was thinking about hiring an ADHD coach, but I was like, maybe I could just become one and I can learn all the skills and I could be my own ADHD coach. And
Mm.
so I called my friend who is a professional coach, and I told
Okay.
her, and she was like, okay, but don't do that ADHD coaching program, go to this program. She
Mm.
sent me to accomplishment coaching, which is where I'm currently enrolled, getting a certification for coaching. And now here we are.
Okay, very cool. Thank you so much for sharing about your journey. It sounds like you've been able to fill a lot of roles and you've got that flexibility, right? Like marketing, UX, HR, legal, like oh my gosh, you're all over. I love that because what that means is you're bringing that knowledge with you place to place to place, right? And I think that there's an unfortunate like story out there in society that if you like change directions that somehow that's like wrong or bad. I don't know if you're feeling any of those feelings, but I just want to say like I'm so happy to hear that you have been in multiple roles because I think especially with ADHDers, we need the novelty and the newness and the new challenges to keep us motivated and keep that passion alive in us for our work. So that's just super cool and I'm so happy that you found coaching. So, okay, let's talk about how coaching first came into your world. I'm curious. You said you were pursuing like potentially hiring an ADHD coach, right? So, that's something that I've seen for a lot of coaches. You either like wished you had had a coach and so now you're like I want to be that coach to help people not suffer like I did, or you worked with a coach and you were like yikes, I could be way better than that person. Like no way that's what's the market. So I'm curious at like the very start when coaching first came into your world, how would you say that you first approached it? I heard ADHD coaching of interest, but like what was going on in your life that made you think I might need an ADHD coach?
Yeah, so I mean, so this is somewhat of a long and convoluted story. So with ADHD, there is, I'm gonna say it's a little bit beyond a school of thought. It's a high percentage, and I would dare to say more than 50% of people with ADHD are actually what they're suffering from is childhood trauma.
Right.
And so, and the symptoms of ADHD, there's 100% overlap with symptoms of complex PTSD, which
Right.
is, people that were, from neglectful or abuseful childhood. And so,
Can I real quick too for
yes,
listeners, a big piece difference between PTSD and CPTSD is the repetitive nature of it. So PTSD, we often think of like one flash bulb, like one bad event, right? Like one thing happened, and then there was trauma in processing that event afterwards, therefore PTSD. CPTSD is going to be the complexity. So the C stands for complex. And what that means is that essentially you didn't just have a single event that arose and shocked you, right? And was unable for you to process, which is how a trauma comes about, but rather it was your everyday environment. And so your brain has to rewire in different ways to survive. your life, right? Not just a moment in time, but your entire life, the whole environment. And so I really appreciate you bringing this up, Kelli, the difference there, because CPTSD is very overlapped with ADHD because of coping mechanisms. So just want to clarify the difference there if you're listening and you're like, wait, what is the CPTSD? So keep going, Kelli. Hopefully I didn't derail you too much.
Oh, you're fine. So yeah, so CPTSD, and it's underdiagnosed in the United States because and I was diagnosed with it in 2010, but it's not diagnosed in the United States as frequently
Yeah.
because it's not yet recognized as a separate diagnosis from PTSD but outside of the United States it is. So
Mm-hmm.
in the UK, for example, you'll see a lot of people with official diagnoses, but in the United States it's not, which means it's very difficult to get help for it. Because and so what ends up happening is people are misdiagnosed with ADHD, or not necessarily a misdiagnosis with ADHD, but if what you have is a dysregulated central nervous system
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually anxiety, even low level anxiety that you're not even noticing that's causing your distraction, it's quite possible that taking amphetamine to make your to help you concentrate is actually going to exacerbate the problem. And so that's what was happening with me. So I did not. So it was for me, like my uh trauma response is sort of this, like, I just numb out, right? It's just kind of like avoiding thinking about the thing, and I just numb out and I don't feel the pain and I would just move forward, right? That's how I was able to get out of my childhood home and go to a top 10 law school and go work at a big law firm, and I was just able to numb out.
Mm-hmm.
But then occasionally things would happen that would trigger me and I would have a PTSD flashback. But I did not know that that's what was happening. So in 2021, so when COVID hit, I think everybody with trauma and ADHD I mean, it was difficult for a lot of us, just the isolation, and things got tricky. And then I was having, I had taken that HR role, which was a stretch opportunity for me. I had never worked in HR before. I really didn't know what I was doing. Beyond, I knew how to run a program, but I didn't know a whole lot about marketing. But they needed someone to fill the role. They needed somebody to build a team, and then I could do. And so, but I was working for the chief marketing officer at the time, and he's very, very direct with his feedback. And in hindsight, I appreciate what he did because I appreciate it, but it was also, and let me just tell you what happened.
Yeah.
So he would keep telling me that I wasn't connecting with people. I wasn't connecting with people. And over and over again, because my job as this program manager was to kind of play point on programs that stretched across all the different departments within marketing to kind of bring it all together and get people on the same page so we could launch whatever it was. And he just kept telling me, they don't know you, you're not connecting with them, they're not connecting with them. And he kept bringing it up every time I would speak to him. And then there was an incident. What I was hearing was nobody likes you, right? Because I had no idea what he was talking about, right? I had no clue what he meant by no, you weren't connecting with people. What does he mean? Like, what is he talking about, right? And so, but I had in previous, performance evaluations, kind of had some feedback that was like that. At Amazon, they would call it earns trust, but really what they're talking about is that people feel comfortable coming to you. What they were getting at was that I was so direct sometimes that people were taken aback by it from time to time because I'm a very direct person. But what happened? Like I had no idea what they were talking about. Like, right, I had no clue what the problem was because I'm thinking, well, I just said what I just told them
Right.
the
Like, was
question,
the
right?
internet connection not correct? Like, what does this mean, connecting with them? Like,
I had
it's
no idea,
vague.
right? I had no idea, right?
Mhm.
So it just kind of like periodically through my career, I would get feedback about something, or someone would say something to me like, and I would just be blindsided by it. I had absolutely no idea what they were talking about. And this would happen to me again and again, right? It wasn't like a monthly thing, but I mean, like probably a couple times a year where there'd be some incident
Okay.
where somebody was upset about something I did or said. And I would be like, what in the heck? Like, I have no idea what they are talking about, right? I'm like, that was a perfectly benign interaction. And they would go and complain, right? This happened once at Zoo Lily. I had met with somebody and they'd asked for feedback on something. And I gave them feedback, but it was very direct, matter of fact feedback about what needed to be improved on their presentation. And they were upset and like went to their boss and
Oh
complained, and their boss was
no.
upset. And I'm like, I just don't like they asked and I told them what is the problem here.
Yeah.
Right. So this kind of stuff was a sensitive area for me. And it was but anyway, so my boss keeps telling me over and over again, you're not connecting with people. And then there was an incident where he yelled at me in front of all of my peers in the middle of this meeting. And it basically I had trouble focusing on work after that.
Of course.
I started
Wow.
having like I just like I didn't understand what was happening, but I was like, I can't focus. I can't do my job anymore. Right. I can focus when it's like, when your ADHD is at the max, right? It's like I'm procrastinating doing every activity. I can do it when it's like last minute and it's due, but before then it was like this just fight to be able to sit down and focus and do this thing.
Yeah.
And so I was starting to kind of like dive in to try to understand, why was I not connecting with people? Like what was wrong with me? He's telling me there's something wrong with me. What's wrong with me?
Mhm.
And then what can I do about it? So I started reading everything I could about ADHD and trying to understand sort of my own like insecurities. Like, why was I afraid? Why was I not opening up to people? Why was I not connecting? What does it even mean to connect? And
Mm.
so like I read everything I could get my hands on, and um also made some changes, right? I decided, oh,
Okay.
I want to be closer to my friends. So I'm going to move to Chicago. I wanted a divorce, so I divorced my husband,
Mhm.
but starting to make changes. But while I'm in the middle of this kind of flashback, right? This like 80,
Yeah.
which I didn't learn until, several months ago what was going on. But in the event, so I was trying to figure out why I was struggling with my job. Why
Okay.
was I unhappy with my life? And started making changes, and I joined coaching because I was looking for answers. I was like,
Mhm.
I felt like I had like, figured out what it was from a like chemical, like here's the chemical balance going on in my and all the things, but now I need to figure out strategies to manage this. And so
Mhm.
I found coaching.
Cool.
Um, yes, that's my journey.
Okay, I love that because what you just explained is something that I try to teach clients a lot. And so I'm gonna teach you something real quick with your own story, okay?
Okay.
So what you just described to me is as an ideal client, how I would describe what you just described was your customer journey to almost buying coaching. You identified a problem, right? I'm hearing this problem is present, right? That's what happens in a customer journey. Our customers become aware of a problem. So you became aware of the problem. I'm not connecting with people at work. There's something going on. I'm not performing well enough at work for whatever reason, right? But that was the problem, became aware. And then you became solution aware to say, okay, there's skills here that I could learn and there could be a solution. Unfortunately, you went through what a lot of us went through, which is I'm the problem. And you thought, well, I must be the problem. Like there's something wrong with me, right? And then you became specifically aware of product aware of ADHD coaching, where you
Yes.
realized, okay, ADHD coaching could be where I could improve, right? Gain the solution to my problem is through ADHD coaching. So that's awesome. You actually just described a marketing funnel for me, which is so cool. And so what I want you to just take from this and all the listeners to the lesson here is that when we're describing a coaching niche, we're not talking about the problem specifically. We're not talking about the solution specifically. We're even further down the line, right? We're very specifically ADHD coaching. And so, what I would want you to take from this is you had one very specific problem, which was communication at work. You went looking for answers because you became aware of that one specific problem. And that's a big big key to marketing yourself as a coach is talking about problems and solutions, because people are out there right now in your situation that you were before you became aware of the solution and ADHD coaching, but they're out there right now sitting in the problem of, I keep getting this feedback from work and I don't know what it means and I don't know how to fix it, but I want to fix it because I'm a fixer. I'm good. Like, I'm a high achiever. I'm going to do what I have to do to be best at what I do, but I don't know how to be better at this right now. So they're just sitting in the problem, right? And then
Mhm.
content marketing, hopefully, will come around into their world. They'll Google at some point, we'll find some content around solutions, which is like what you went through, right? Of, well, how do I fix this problem? And then you were researching, right? You said you learned everything you could, and then you became aware of ADHD coaching. So in the marketing funnel world, we would want to focus on you as an ideal client towards those last stages, right? Because you weren't ready to buy a solution when you first were becoming aware of this problem.
Correct.
You first had to find out what the solution was on your own and come to the realization, oh, ADHD coaching might be helpful for me. Before then, you would even be open to someone being a provider for you. So thank you for telling your story, because you literally mapped out a marketing funnel of a customer journey map. So that's super cool. But does that make sense when I'm describing here the difference between problem aware, solution aware, and then actually like product aware?
Yes, it does.
Perfect. And I think you mentioned your title right now is product manager. So my guess between your marketing background and things too, like, I'm glad this is connecting. Um, okay, so that makes a lot of sense for me to understand timeline. And when was that? Would you say like months ago, years ago?
Oh, it's been about 2 years now.
Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. So you're in this certification right now, and so that's probably teaching you like coaching skills, right? Like how to engage in a coaching conversation, or what else would you say you're learning in that program?
Yeah, so the program that I'm in is a fairly comprehensive program, but I would say it takes you through this full transformation process, right? So they don't sit down and just say, okay, today we're going to teach you everything you need to know how to be a coach and give
Mhm.
you a bunch of information. They trickle it out like every month. So we're learning yes, basic coaching skills, but it's ontological coaching, so it's about coaching to the way people are showing up in the world, to the way that you're being.
Mhm.
And the hypothesis is that you can choose how you want to be. And so it's about shedding our automatic ways of being, all of our kind of survival mechanism, automatic ways. And so you're instead observing why you do what you do and why you make the choices you make, so that by observing, you have an opportunity to make a different choice.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I often think of the four questions for behavior change, like where are you now? Where do you want to go? How can you get there? And then actually devising a plan, right? So that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense that that would map, similarly. Um, Very cool that you're in a comprehensive program. So what would you say sparked your interest in joining me on this call? So, for folks at home that are listening, we met in an ADHD Facebook group, and I had posted about a brand clarity call talking about your niche and getting clear on your coaching niche. So, Kelli, tell me what sparked your interest to be like, hey, I think this might be for me.
Well, I have been spending quite a bit of time trying to figure out my niche lately because, as we discussed, I have a pretty uh, disparate background in terms of like the different areas that I have
Yeah,
worked in. So,
extensive knowledge.
I mean, that's just it. It's, broad, but not necessarily deep, right?
Mm,
And I'm wrestling a lot with just like some of the ideas behind coaching too, right? And where it crosses over with therapy. And I know from a legal standpoint, technically we cannot do therapy, but that doesn't mean coaches aren't doing it. And so kind of wondering like so I'm trying to figure out what it is that I want to do. But then, I'm trained to look backwards from the customers and how can I best serve a customer? And then you build a program or a niche from what customers need. And so when I look at what customers need, I'm like, maybe they really need therapy. Right. And so that's a little bit of what I'm wrestling with when I look at having a niche with ADHD.
mm.
Um,
Let's talk
and
about that, because that
yeah.
That's such a good question. We'll dig into like the specifics of your niche in a minute, but let's talk about that. Um, you just said so many like powerful things there. Okay, so first, the difference between coaching and therapy. What have you learned or what questions do you have about it so far? Also, I feel like might need to do a bit of backstory of like how I got into coaching because that might help you know
That'd
all
be
the
great.
questions you could ask me too. But
Yeah.
uh where should we start with this?
Well, I'll tell you my thought on the difference between coaching and
Yeah.
therapy. So
Cool.
first, therapy is the technical, the way that the coaching industry is defining it is that therapy is looking backwards and healing wounds from the past, and coaching is forward looking, and that we've only looked backwards, just to the extent that something is kind of blocking you, and then we'll move forward. And I do agree with that coaching is primarily forward looking, project based. And so I get that. But when you're dealing with somebody with ADHD, which, like I said, I think is more than 50%, it's trauma based. What they need is to strategies to deal with that trauma. And most coaches are not trained to do it. And so I have had coaching from extensively trained coaches. I've worked with 4 different coaches and like people that had no background in ADHD, and they couldn't help me. And so I found a coach who's also trained for my same program to be a mentor coach. And she is a psychologist from Russia. Right. And so, so you get basically like, and she's a coach now, but she has extensive knowledge and expertise in CPTSD. And I'm just so thankful that I found her, but she's operating as a coach. She's probably doing therapy. I don't know. But it's like, I mean, we're not spending a lot of time talking about my childhood. We're looking forward, but trauma and trauma responses and learnings from the past get in the way so frequently. Um, in fact, it's relevant to every single thing I think and do, that it's like I need somebody with that expertise to help me.
Mhm.
And so I do wonder, for me, I would love to do ADHD coaching. And I think I do see value in that, particularly since there aren't a lot of people trained in, it's really, really difficult to find help for the kind of stuff that's getting in the way of moving forward with the set of symptoms I'm talking about. People suffering from this have gone to therapist after therapist, and they're not getting the help. It's just talk, 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 talk. So I think that I don't know. I think that, look, could I add value? Absolutely, I can. With the skills I have today from coaching, I can absolutely add value. I just wonder if how much more training I should get in going to a little deeper to the root cause of some of these issues.
Mhm.
It's not
So,
talking about the incident, right? It's, oh, this is recognized, this is a trauma response and how you manage it.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So in terms of the splitting of hairs, right?
Yeah.
I think that there's a couple of pieces here. First is that therapy, specifically in our society, is very much managed by our medical system.
Right.
And the healthcare system in the US is deeply flawed and
Correct.
systemically broken, right?
Yep.
And so if we know that that is true, and we know that people are not getting their needs met by the current system, this is true for all fucked up systems in the United States. We can either work in the system and bend the rules, but hate our lives because we're in the system, right? So that would be like if you pursued a therapy degree, you could go work as a therapist, hope to get in touch with a niche with ADHDers. You could become a counselor. That could be your niche. You could do that. However, you're going to have limitations, which a lot of people are leaving their more traditional medical or provider roles for the wild west of entrepreneurial coaching because the actual work of therapy is very tightly monitored for the first couple of years of a therapist's training. And then they have, ongoing learning and development skills and criterias and things like that. So there's a lot of structure around it. What happens in the therapy office, though? You're right. It does look a lot like coaching. And that's because coaching in and of itself, coaching comes from psychology as a type of communication style. Just like I could advise you right now, I could say, hey, Kelli, my advice is that you take a sip of your drink while I'm talking because maybe your throat's going to get dry from all this talking, right? That's advice. That is totally allowed under the umbrella of therapy, right? I am advising you to do this thing. Coaching would be, hey, Kelli, what do you think you should do? Oh, you just told me your throat is dry. What do you think you should do? Coaching is a type of communicational practice. So it is the way that I would engage with you is to coach the answer out of you. Then we can move into mentoring and we can get into therapy and things like that, right? Therapy is, I think you should, to be healthy, I think you should be drinking this much of your drink. Therefore, I'm going to help you to realize that you need to be drinking this much of your drink and help you find your intrinsic motivators to start drinking that much of your drink because it's what's best for baseline. Societally, we said that that's normal. So you should need to be drinking. So to me, therapy has a drive to get you to baseline. It's really for if you are flailing, you are in survival, you're not quite functioning fully. You have some pieces that are clearly blocking you. Therapy could be where you start because the therapist's job is to nurture you back to baseline health. And health is such a nebulous word. For me, it's largely agency, that you feel that you have agency over your decision making. Then comes in coaching. If I'm thinking of it as a spectrum, then would come in the coaching conversation. And I'm going to now just switch from using coaching as a, adjective of a type of communication style to the industry of a coach, right? A coach specifically is designed to help you reach a goal. And a big difference is people might go to therapy with a goal of like, I want things to be better. That therapist is writing a treatment plan for you to get your appointments approved. They have a treatment plan somewhere, but you as the attendee of the therapy sessions don't know what that treatment plan is. Whereas in coaching, you're on the same team as your client. You're co-developing what the goal in the treatment plan is. The client's buying into the treatment plan before they get started and deciding, yes, I want to do those things with you. So to me, there's some pretty significant differences in how you communicate with either your therapist or your coach and what level of transparency you have, as well as all of the rigidity around the medical provider aspect of it. So there's a big difference between the two, but I think unfortunately they get compared very often, which actually does both a disservice, I think. And so I'm curious, where does this question for you come up? Is it specifically, I don't think I have enough knowledge to handle every possible ADHD problem? Then, therefore, I need to learn more? I'm going to tell you, okay, we need to niche you down more. Or is it something else? So where is this question brewing from in you? Do you know? Like this therapy versus coaching and coaching versus therapy.
Yeah.
What motivates it?
I think you nailed it where it's that it's this well, first, I don't have the knowledge to help with every single thing that might come up, right? So so yes, I mean, when I had gone into ADHD, when I had thought I wanted to be an ADHD coach originally, it was because I, was like, I'm going to have a PhD in ADHD by the time I'm done figuring this out. I'm going to
right.
this, right?
What am I going to do with this knowledge?
Right. But it turns out ADHD is not even the thing that I was struggling with. It was the CPTSD. So, right. And so once I kind of segued and figured that out, I was like, which happened in like March, April this year is when, and it was the coaching program that helped me figure that out actually, because they put you through this exercise and everybody else was crying and upset. And I was like, I don't feel anything. Why is everybody so upset? I don't get it. And I was like, why am I the only anyone not upset. And it's because I don't have feelings, like I don't have them. I didn't at the time. So I was like, let me figure
Yeah.
this out. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So
Why am I so numb and disconnected? Yep.
yes, so that's kind of like helped me figure it out. But basically that I now know, if I haven't even figured out all the answers to help myself yet. So, and so recognizing, yeah, I think there's an element of like I feel like I have to have it all figured out before I can start. But I know intellectually I also know that's the wrong answer, right? Because
Yeah.
I just might price myself a little lower given,
Yeah.
right?
No. Okay. So this is where I come in.
Okay.
So, in terms of what you're struggling with, this is super common. And I want you to know that you will never be fully prepared with everything. Whether you wait another year or 10, people change. Human variables are so, so, so tricky that ultimately, to be a helper in a helping profession, and my background is psychology, and then my master's is education, and I worked in higher ed for a while. I should tell you a bit more about my backstory as we go through,
Mhm.
but um, in the multiple helping roles I've had, there comes a point where your confidence no longer comes from your competence, it comes from your experience. So right now you're in the competence phase, right? You're building up your competence and being able to have discussion about ADHD, and you're intellectualizing the experience of being a coach right now, right? You're learning what it means to be a coach, you're practicing, you're gaining competence. But to actually move into confidence, we have to have clarity on what exactly is the type of coaching you're going to do. And ADHD coaching is far too broad. That's not a niche. That is a type of coach. That's actually more of a title. So I might call you an ADHD coach as a title, but even still, that's actually not a branded title. So if you were my client, I would push you to actually brand that even further. So hopefully today we can get you a little bit closer to what your ultimate title will be, but ADHD coach is far too vague. That's like life coach. So we'd want to edit that a bit. But then also knowing exactly the transformation you help your clients with is where your confidence is going to come from, because you have clarity on this is the boundaries in which I can help you in, and that's the stuff I can't help you in. And that's the difference between therapy and coaching. Again, another difference is therapy, there's really everything from someone cut me off and that upset me to I'm having suicidal ideation and I need to be like physically helped right now, right? And as a therapist, that's all your responsibility. And
Mhm.
you don't get to tell the client, we don't talk about that, because anything that comes up, well, sure, other than like your personal boundaries, but like in terms of anything that comes up for them is fair game.
Right.
Whereas in coaching, if you were talking to a client about their workday and all of a sudden they were like, yeah, but my ADHD is really making my sex life hard, you could easily be like, yo, I'm not an ADHD sex coach. So out of my bounds. Whereas a therapist would go there with them, right? You couldn't, as a therapist, be like, tough shit. Like, you are there more accessible as a therapist. Whereas in a coaching relationship, and part of when we talk about that coaching is working towards goals, that's what I mean by talking about the difference between like the client having the treatment plan or not, is a coaching client is going to know, well, I'm working towards this goal with you, therefore these are the topics we're going to talk about. In therapy, it's more so, how was your week, right? It's more nebulous. You want to see where they go. And while you might be using some of those skill sets while you're coaching your client towards their goal, it's different in that there is a goal in mind that we're working you towards. Whereas in therapy, that's it's really one-sided. It's really just a baseline. Whereas in coaching, it's collaboratively building together. And so if we were to think about your story around when you were motivated to explore the potential of an ADHD coach supporting you, it was really because you were struggling at work. And so if I were to tell you, just off of this conversation, I would say you probably, based on your experience, have the most personal lived experience to connect with and write content about for your marketing. So that's the other big part of it, of how to actually get clients, is to show up and talk about the specific problem you solve over and over and over again and relate to them about it. would be to look at your own story and see, was it that the ADHD symptoms were impacting you at work, or was it that the ADHD symptoms were impacting you at home? And which one was the triggering event? So maybe you're going to say it was both, right? Because you told me it was like kind of taking over your life. What I would want to know is, was it your life that made your work harder, or was it your work that made your life harder when you were first struggling and looking for an ADHD coach? Do you remember which was kind of the triggering problem?
Um, Good question. I and I don't know the answer to it because I didn't even try to have a life outside of work. My whole life was work.
And that
For
was a problem, right? Because you became like overcommitted to work.
um well, I mean, it was a problem because I didn't so what happened was I had moved after law school. I was living in Chicago for a while, and while in Chicago I did have quite a few friends, but I've never been particularly good at making friends, right? So I always, everywhere I went, I did make some friends, but it was, I was never had lots and lots of them, right? So it was
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a little socially awkward, so it was a little bit hard, and I'm not super great at connecting with people on like small talk is not my friend. So,
Mm-hmm.
right, but I always made friends, people that got to know me. So I would make good friends, but not a lot of them. In any event, so I was in moved back to my home state in 2009, and I really just didn't make friends. So from 2009 to 2022, I just I made like one or two new friends.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like there was a little bit of a period of time where I was trying to make friends and it didn't really go very well. And then once I started my job at Amazon, I just stopped trying to make friends. And then yes, the job took over, but that wasn't the whole reason. It was me just choosing not to try because it was avoiding it because I didn't want to be rejected, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't try. And I just worked and worked and worked. And that continued up until, I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a few friends, people that I had known for, more than a decade, right? That I would see from time to time. But
Yeah.
I don't know, there's just something not fulfilled in me, right? That I was trying to figure out why, like, um, and it is this lack of connection. I've since learned, right? It's that even the relationships I did have, I wasn't nurturing in the right way because I was, emotionally shut off.
Mm. This is so interesting, Kelly, because I would have thought from your opening story, oh, for sure you're going to end up doing like career coaching for ADHDers. But here, I'm actually curious if it's more the relationship side. And now I'm hearing your story, like I'm replaying it through this lens of connection and friendship. That's really interesting. So I'm curious, which would you say is more important to you and your values of living a good life? A community of friends and people around you that feel connected to you and that you feel connected to, or career accolades?
It's relationships. I mean, and it's true for everyone. People can say that it's not, but here's the thing. We need enough money to live. And I have been poor and I've not been poor. And obviously not being poor is way better than being poor. Because when you don't have enough money, that's a real problem. And I don't want to discount that. You have to have enough.
Totally.
Um, so, but once you have enough, then it becomes sort of diminishing returns,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's that once you start trading off quality relationships in order to make more money, I actually think that is, a mental illness of sorts,
Oh,
right?
for
There's
sure.
something that we're doing, we're chasing, and we get caught in it. I was
Mm.
caught in it. It was this fear of being poor, and I was gonna it wasn't even just because I don't have any family backup. There's nobody in my family because they're all, I have CPTSD for a reason, right? My family is
Yeah.
not the best. So like there's nobody that I'm gonna be able to go to be like, oh, I need some money. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so I didn't want to be poor, but it's also was more than that. There was the element of ego to it too, right? That it wasn't just about the money, it was also the value I bring into the world. That, my job title and money in the bank equals my worth, because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
inherently feel that I had worth outside of
Mm-hmm.
that. So anyway, kind of digging into all of that, and healing it, I think, is the key to happiness, right? Because those of us, uh yeah, I can you repeat your original question? I've gone off on a tangent like a true
No,
ADHD, and I
you're
actually don't remember the original question now.
this is perfect. This is perfection. So, a couple things. I'm ADHD and neurodivergent too. So, I'm always going to be with you when you spiral and start talking, and I'm with you. So, you answered that perfectly. I want you to know. Um, Second, my question was, which do you prefer, or which would you say is like your number one goal or values that aligns more with you, the job accolades or the friendship and relationship? And you clearly explained it's the latter. And so, are you okay if we dig a little bit deeper into your past?
Oh, sure, let's do it.
Okay. Did you feel lonely growing up?
I don't remember.
Hmm. Does that make you feel lonely now? How do you feel about not knowing, not remembering?
Um, uh, I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Hmm.
I mean, because when you grow up, it's very difficult to know how you felt growing up, because I don't think I felt much of anything, because things were what they were. And when you're growing up in it, you don't even know that that's not how everybody else's houses are too,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, for all you know, this is how everybody's growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, because when you were just speaking about the connection, um, it spoke to me and resonated with me. And as a child, I don't know that I felt loneliness, but now looking back, I can see how lonely I was because I didn't know how to talk to people because of ADHD and because of the way my brain was always, firing and the questions I had and the thoughts I had and all the different impulse controls and oh my gosh, the sensory experiences, like being a gifted kid, but also being a woman of color that was fat in LA. Like there were so many layers, right, of
Yeah.
what added up. And then having an abusive family, having childhood sexual abuse, like all the layers, it makes a lot of sense that during the years, I just survived. But looking back now, I can see I didn't have very many friends. Like we moved so often, I couldn't build long-term relationships. And we moved so often because our finances were so unstable. And our finances were so unstable because our family was broken. And like there was one parent and all of these pieces, right, that add up to it. That personally, I can see why that for me is such a strong driver of I hate feeling alone and I hate knowing that anyone else in the world ever feels alone. Like that is something that I wish I could heal for people. And for me, that sources back to like how alone I felt as a child. Like I felt deeply neglected as a child, not aware of it as a child, but now looking back, I can see it.
Yeah.
So to me, that's where like, I used to cry over, do you know that Christmas song that's like, um, this is my grown-up Christmas list. Do you know that song?
No,
Oh my gosh.
I'll have to listen to it later.
Oh Jesus. Be prepared to cry. I just used to sob as a child because it talks about like no more wars, like no more fights, like just wanting people to feel connected and loved. Because personally looking back, like I felt so deeply alone, right? And so I'm curious just to know more about where do you think that deep compassion and that deep desire to feel connected to other people comes from? And I know that you have psychological knowledge that knows we are a social species that is innate. We have mirror neurons that require us like to be like other people, right? You probably know like the base layer of well we're humans that crave connection, but I'm curious, like in your specific story, Kelli, can you help me understand more about where you think that profound compassion that I heard for being in connection with other people and having relationships comes from?
Yeah.
Because it's not true for everyone, right? Not everyone monitors or thinks about this. So I want to get to know more about you and where this comes from.
Right. So it's coming from, I think, both a healthy and unhealthy place. So, so the craving of the connection is actually in and of itself is a trauma response. That deep craving for extreme intimacy, right, is not something that everybody craves on that level. Um, and I do crave that, and it is somewhat of some just according to my coach, it's a little bit of just some distorted thinking, because it's not so it can be it's not so much that I want it. It can be that, it's like this terror of not having it, right? Where it's like, oh, if I don't have enough of that, I'm going to die alone, kind of a fear, which I think underlies a lot of people's. Um, I don't think I'm alone in that fear. So some people may not be as aware that if you actually take whatever it is you're afraid of to its logical conclusion, like it's actually the fear of dying alone is kind of
Totally.
underlying it, right? I don't want to be rejected by the pack, so I better conform. Otherwise, people won't like me, and I'll get kicked out, and then I'll get fired, and I won't have, and then I'll end up dying alone. So there is some of that going on with me, and I don't know why it's so extreme with me, but that is something I'm still working through to try to figure out why it's so important to me. But so we'll have to get to the bottom of that later. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that there's another element of it, just that I think is the healthy place, is that to me, like all the best moments in life, right? All of the moments of like joy are really moments that you share with other people, right? Like all the best memories, it's not me alone doing stuff, right? It's me, enjoying it with somebody whose company I also enjoy, right? There's something about that shared experience. It just um, makes things a little bit more, makes things better. And just like the richness of life, right? Of like getting to share it with other people. When you're alone and that's all you're doing, it gets pretty boring. Like, yes, you get to control everything and do everything exactly how you want it, but you're pretty limited in the experiences you get to have if you're always by yourself. So anyway, I just think that I actually watched signed up for one of those master classes. Master classes, like you can download their app, and they even have like a
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
a Apple TV app. And I took one by Esther Perel, and
Oh,
she was talking about, relationships determining the quality of our lives, the
yeah.
quality of relationships. And I agree with her. Um, I agree with everything that she said about that, and that you learn how to relate to others from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And so the things that I learned about how to relate to people were mostly wrong,
Mm.
because not entirely wrong, like my family's honest, and forthcoming about things, so we have that going for us, but a lot of things were wrong, right? Just maybe not demonstrating enough kindness towards each other, maybe being too direct,
Mm-hmm.
so not sparing people's feelings enough. But there's a lot of anger growing up, and so in any event, I think that like I did not learn how to have the type of quality relationships that are going to produce the happiest life.
Mm.
And so I've been trying to learn those skills now. Um, yeah, but ADHD gets in the way of that,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
So,
that's the challenge, right? If you forget to respond to people, you forget to reply to the text, or you lose track of time and you're late every time you're supposed to meet with people, it doesn't help relationships very well.
yeah. So, a couple things. I want to point out that, and you'll have to re-listen to this with this like researcher cap on. I also did some UX research for a couple years. So this is just so fascinating to me. I'm sitting over here like, whoa, I can't wait for you to listen to this again, because something I hear you doing is over normalizing your special skills. So you personally have a very deep connection to experiencing your best moments in life with other people. You have memories where your favorite moments are with other people. You highly value having other people there. Now, I want you to take a that's the micro, right? That's the individual. You just told me those stories. I want you to start separating that out from macro lessons that you're gaining right now, like from Esther Perel or other like psychological researchers that are teaching you that we're social beings and everyone needs social relationships. You and I know that, right? We could probably both cite the same Harvard study that was over 70 years. They tracked a bunch of old men and discovered the happiest men were the ones that had lifelong relationships. Are you familiar with that study?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we know this psychologically, biologically, we are proven, we are hardwired to seek community. We know this. It is fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone cares though. Just like we can know and it is fact that, we also need to have a certain amount of protein every day. Not everybody cares about that though, right? Even though we could say every human body needs 8 hours of sleep or whatever, right? Not everybody cares.
Well, some people I think take it for granted. And that was the point I forgot to make, is that if you have a family, and most people I think do have a family, right? They have parents that were good enough parents. They might have some siblings, some cousins, some grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever. And they have people in their lives that have just always been there. And they don't have to put a lot of thought into relationships. Because when you don't have a family that's decent or that's going to take care of you or be there for you when you need them, like you're really on your own in the world unless you figure out how to make new friends and new people in a chosen family. And if you can't figure out how to do that, and it takes a different skill than being born into a family, they accept you no matter you do live to the bare minimum of effort to be accepted by the family you're born to, right? But
Mm-hmm.
for those of us that don't have that, you are going to have to, have some more refined skills to be able to create the relationships to be happy.
Do you want to teach people those skills?
As soon as I learn them. I don't know yet. Yes, I think I do, but I'm still on that journey to learn it myself.
Okay. So this is so interesting. So I'm hearing more of like an ADHD friendship coach, but I want to dig deeper into this relationship thing. So, or ADHD relationship coach, actually. Um, which relationships do you feel? I've heard that you had a partner, your ex partnered. It sounds like maybe you're with someone new. I don't know, but like, what would you say when you think of your relationships? Who are you citing? Are you citing your partner, your colleagues, your besties, your cousins? Who do you personally think of when you think of, you know what, tomorrow you're going to celebrate making your first coaching sale? Let's imagine, who do you want to be there to celebrate with you?
Yeah, my partner, my friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you call them your chosen family?
Yeah.
So, would you want to be known as the person that helped someone that has felt really alone in the world develop their chosen family and like teach them how to actually do that?
I would, but I don't feel like I have the skill set to help with that yet. I feel like I will have the skill set to help with that. So that could be, I have a stack of books that I have not yet read, but I bought every book I could find on social skills because I actually think that for ADHD people to make friends is very difficult. I'm not, and I know I'm not alone in this. But it's difficult, and and the reason that it's difficult is because for many of us it feels like everybody else got some rule book and they know all these rules and we just don't know them. Nobody told us the rules and we're just showing up not knowing how to play the game and like watching everybody
Yeah.
else live their lives and go by and have all these friends and do all these fun things, and we're like, I wonder how they do that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's and in order to figure it out, you're gonna have to break it way down into its components. It's not enough to just be like, just make go ask them to go to coffee. It's okay. Well, how do I ask them to go to coffee? What
Oh yeah.
specifically do I say? Do I do it in text, over email? Like I
Mm-hmm.
need this level of detail. And I will tell you, that finding a book or resource with that level of detail, I have not yet found it, but I have not read all these books yet. So maybe it's in one of them. But like most of these books, it's higher level stuff. It's more conceptual social skills, right? And it's like, I think most of us ADHDers get the concept, but we actually don't know how to execute it. And so we,
Exactly.
you
We're
know,
all aware we're weird. Like we're aware we're not doing the right thing, but we don't know what to do instead.
right. Or like for me, it was just kind of avoiding trying, right? Because I'm like, oh, I'm not really
Yeah.
sure what to say or when to say it. And if
Way
I
too
don't want to be weird,
stressful.
so I just don't try. Where it's
Mhm.
like, if I knew exactly how to do it and be smooth about it, I would try more. Right. Um,
Okay, so you're describing a coaching program.
I
The
think I
level
am for
you
social skills.
are. I'm actually like, okay, if we were to say, oh, we're at time, here's what I heard. If I were to reflect back, I could see you becoming an ADHD relationship coach that helps lonely ADHD adults develop their chosen family or find their chosen family. And then it could include the steps of identifying, where you are now. So, what's missing from your social life? What do you want in your social life? What skills does that mean you need to learn? And you could have your own list of, you know, I don't know, 12 ADHD social skills that every adult with ADHD needs to know in order to have your chosen family and thrive in your chosen family kind of deal. And then actually helping them go out and be more social, embrace those social awkwardnesses, give them templates even of how they could text someone they just met to say, hey, it was great to meet you, would love to meet for coffee kind of thing. Like you could have all those resources available for them in a coaching program that you provide, knowing that you will never know everything. The fact that you have those books and you want to read them is enough for you to be ready to start creating content in this area and then start talking with people about it to find out what they really need and then pull together exactly your offer and bring people into it.
So I'm a loneliness coach.
I mean, I think it's the opposite because I don't think you want to coach people towards loneliness. But maybe you're a connection coach.
Yeah. I think it's something that's badly needed. And I
It
don't
is.
know that there is a huge market out there for it
Oh,
because I
there
was
is.
looking,
There
well,
is.
there might be a market of people that want it, but I don't know if there's a bunch of people doing it because I
No.
couldn't find it.
Yeah, so a couple things. Um, should I tell you my background now? Because I feel
Yes,
like that might
please.
help.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So my background, I studied social psychology. I was in an emotional intelligence research lab and wrote a thesis on mentorship and the way that mentorship helps disadvantaged or marginalized students develop in their career. From there, I got a master's degree in education. I studied program development specifically, so curriculum and like pedagogy and learning outcomes, but outside of the classroom. So rather than being in a class environment, it was more so the social aspects or the events or the trainings, like all the pieces that would go together. It wasn't just like bound by the typical classroom environment. So studied program development and then worked on a grant that I developed all the program work for, served about 400 students. From there went on to a bigger project, was impacting the technology and advising experience for about 30,000 students and started my business along the side back when I was doing academic advising, started doing career coaching about 5 years ago online. And then 2 years in, people started asking me, how'd you do this? And then realized I really love entrepreneurship. And now I'm a business coach.
That's awesome.
So, sorry, what did you say?
That's awesome.
Oh, thanks. And so my pathway through has been very uh, focused on helping people find their people. And I think of it as I help people find where they can do their best work being themselves. Like I want to help you align who you are with what you do rather than changing like who you are to fit your job, rather change your job to match who you are.
Right.
Because I think that that's something that gets left out of most career counseling conversations is like you shouldn't have to change who you are to do good work. And in fact, you don't have to. But all that to say, the clients I work with are largely neurodivergent because that's who I attract, the way that I teach, the way that I talk. It's in me, right? And so my specialty is the neurodivergent folks that are starting coaching businesses. But it's very much that connection side of things that I have talked to every one of my clients about in different ways. So I can tell you there's a huge fucking need, huge, massive, giant need for what you're describing. And I bet if you posted in our ADHD, that entrepreneurship group we met in, do you struggle with making friends? And how does your ADHD influence it? I bet you would get hundreds of comments. And that would be awesome market research because then what you do here. So, this is now another tangible lesson I wanted to make sure to cover with you at some point, based on something you said earlier. So, you're right. You don't have, 40 or 400 clients you look back at right now and can say, well, all of them asked me about this, right? You can't look for themes or do like backwards research like that, right? So instead, in product design, right, we would think about the design theory and the design process where we start with empathy and then we prototype. So in this case, your empathy would be for your previous self when you most felt in alignment with the person you want to serve because you have a heart for this. And I'm actually really interested, like I'd love to just put this little bug in your ear and recommend that you like talk to your helper professionals about this. um you have an interesting habit of, as soon as you start getting detailed, you wrap yourself up. And so I just love for you to know, like, your voice is wanted. Like, I want to hear you talk. I want to hear what you have to say. And um, so there's just that little aside for you. Like, maybe
Thank you
look
so much.
into if you have a little trauma around like being told you talk too much or something. um, because it's potentially coming up. And rather, your coaching program is it would be so freaking beautiful. Like it would literally be helping people bridge the connection to their other people, right? That are lonely and looking for them too. Like that's freaking
Yeah.
beautiful.
I'm thinking this through and I'm loving this idea. I still believe that there's a therapy. Maybe it's not even therapy, it could just be there's going to be an element of this of you have to heal some in wounds to make friends. And some people, there's healing the wound and now you're ready to make friends, but you don't have the skills. And that's I think where this coaching program would need to focus. But you're gonna find people that don't know they have unhealed wounds. And then but it's gonna be, you're gonna have a really hard time making friends when you show up to every situation in a very unhealed way, right? That may not be universally true. It depends on like how your trauma shows up. But if it's showing up in a way that's like incredibly off-putting to others, you're gonna have a hard time.
Mm.
So there is that kind of, to the extent you can
So
resolve
what's
those
the concern there that people will get into your program that actually need therapy so you can't help them? Or what's the
uh,
anxiety? What's the fear
I
coming
think
from?
that, or that there's gonna have to be I might just thinking out loud already like problem solve for how I would create the program. I would need somewhere somebody actually knows how to, either I need to learn the skills to resolve some of that, or I need to find somebody who does that I can refer people to.
Yep. So, a
You know,
couple things in terms of the tangible business side. So, running a therapy practice and the marketing of a therapy practice is very different than coaching. So, in coaching, what you can do is you can actually set requirements for someone to be able to join your program. So, one of the things you could do is talk to them one on one and ask them about their recent experiences. And sure, people will come through that end up realizing, oh crap, this was so not right for me. I needed a therapist actually. But you can put up some boundaries that say, if you're doing this, then you might be ready for my program. If you're doing that, you might not be ready for my program. If you're struggling with these type of things, you're probably ready for this program. If you're struggling with those type of things, actually you might want to go see a therapist first. So for example, my first career coaching program was all about uh, helping you right before you got to burnout and kind of level off in your current job enough so that then you can find a better fitting job. And in that, I would often, talk to folks that were just so down and so depressed. they were not in a place to be adding more shit to their to-do list. And it was part of my boundary that I don't help someone in my program that is struggling with depression, suicidal ideation, or severe anxiety that doesn't have a therapist.
Yeah, I think that's
So
wise.
there was actually a couple people that I was like, hey, I've had conversation with you. It sounds like this would be a great program for you, maybe in 6 months. And so I think there's some weeding in and out that you can do beforehand, but then also when you are leading, and this is the difference between that competence and confidence I was talking to you about earlier. You're looking to solve this problem with competence of maybe I need to learn more, right? Or find another person. And that's where I think the confidence needs to come in, that you will know if someone is going outside of your boundaries. And this is also because you don't have your program developed yet. You don't know what all is in bounds. But if somebody starts talking to you about like personality disorder behavior, or like you're getting a little concerned about like people's safety when they're socializing or anything like that, then you would have your plans of like how would you talk to that person one on one, like in a group setting if they're, I don't know, talking over everyone or something like that. Like, how do you debrief with them afterwards? Do you have social skills, like gatherings with all of your clients and they get to socialize with each other and practice and then debrief after, like how to, decide what to talk about or when and things like that. Um, so that will come in time though, and you won't have confidence that you can handle those moments until you're in it. Unfortunately, like you may intellectually understand, if people start acting this way, I will need to behave that way, right? And like refer them out, but you won't feel confident you can do it until you do it, right?
Right.
Because why would you? You have no proof that you can do it. So it would be false confidence at this point to think it'd be easy for you, but there is clarity of what you could do, right? Of referring them to a therapist or setting aside, time to talk to them one on one, giving them direct feedback about, hey, I need you to try to listen twice as much on the next call and talk half as much. Like you can have conversation with them, but part of that is also something else we haven't gotten into is all of the work experience you have leveraged into your coaching program. You've led teams before, right? So you've led meetings, you've led conversations, you facilitated group discussion. And so you have all that skill set already coming with you into your coaching program. It'll just be translating it in the moment. And honestly, the best thing you're going to be able to do for your confidence is for you to have a coach that you respect, that you can go to with concerns like that. Like, hey, I had this participant that did this. Like, what would you have said? Because I said this and that felt weird. But that will just take time, right? You'll
Mhm.
gain that experience over time.
Right. This is incredibly helpful, Genesis. Thank you so much.
Yay! You're so welcome. I am so excited. What other questions do you have?
Um, I can't think of another question right now. Yeah. So how many years have you been doing the business coaching? 'Cause you're very good at it.
Well, thank you so much. That's such a interesting question. Technically, I've been offering like business coaching through my business itself since 2019. So 4 years. But I think of my experience as being more around 10 years because I've been doing career counseling and career and business clarity is very similar, helping you figure out what job you want versus helping you create the job you want is
Right.
how I see what I do now. So I would say about 10 years in terms of actually listening to what someone is telling me and helping them pull out what they're maybe looking for in a job. I've got about 10 years of experience with.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Very
Oh,
cool.
I love it.
Yeah. I
Okay, so directly, what would you say your niche is right now
I
if
think
you were picking?
if I was picking, it's going to be social skills. I need to rename it, but I think that's what it is. I don't think it necessarily needs to be ADHD or neurodivergent people, although they tend to be the ones that are struggling with it the most. Um, but just anybody who thinks that they want to improve their ability to connect with other people or social skills.
So two things. Okay, imagine a box, okay? And inside the box is your coaching program.
Mm-hmm.
And in your coaching program is how you teach coaching or how you teach social skills. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's already in the box. All the social skills, all of the work they need to do, it's in the box. That's what you offer. So if they work with you, they will develop their social skills. Okay. We know that that's true. In terms of marketing your program, people may not know I need to improve my social skills. People may know I want more friends. Does that sound different to you? I know that I want more friends versus I know I need better social skills. Do you see the
Yeah.
difference there?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd want you to think about in the marketing of your program, you know the how is improving their social skills, right? But in marketing, you'll need to think about the what. So what's the outcome they want? What's the results they want? So if
Right.
I were to ask you, what's your ideal state of friendship, social skills, social life? What's your ideal social life look like? What are 2 or 3 big goals you have personally?
Right. So it's having a community of friends to, share life with, right? So if I want to go to Italy, got some friends I can invite to go. Right? Just have a better time.
Mhm.
So that and obviously I want to have fulfilling relationships with everybody that I relate to, right? So you don't want to just um I think that my focus has shifted some, right? Before it was like going to the parties when you were in your 20s and getting invited to the parties and everybody would get drunk. But I don't have any desire to get drunk. Like I just want to, connect with people on a real level. I don't need to be, mentally altered to do that. Right? So,
Yeah,
so just people that I enjoy spending time with. So friends, family, and have the best relationship possible with my partner. And
I
yeah.
love this. That's such a
No,
clear outcome, like, going from feeling lonely to having your group of chosen family that you do life with. Like, I can definitely guarantee there's a need for this, and I can totally see how you would market it because it's so clear.
and you've got to get beyond your own insecurities, right? So if you're showing up in a very insecure way, you're probably not going to make the right friends
Mhm.
or right. So that's where the therapy or some sort of kind of getting beyond whatever that is comes into play, which is sort of step one. And then step two is going to be, okay, here and that could look different, right? When you're coming from your you're not operating with insecurity and fear, it's going to be easier to make friends. But I still think us ADHD, we still want to know, okay, yeah, I'm not afraid, but how do I do it?
And that's where,
you know?
I mean, you are so right. And that's where the other thing that I thought of when I asked you your niche, and you said maybe, everyone that needs social skills, you are going to, I mean, I can't guarantee it, right? But like, I can almost guarantee you will have so much better success if you keep the ADHD or neurodivergent niche. Because typically we want like 2 identities is when you're starting to get to a good enough niche. So, for example, here we would have 2 identities. One is the neurodivergence, one is the loneliness, right? So that would be, or like the desire of closer connection. So those would be our 2. And that makes branding a lot easier. But also, your stories are all going to be through the lens of your ADHD. And so you will inherently be calling in ADHDers. And it's kind of like if you go and buy a drink and it's from a cold refrigerator, but on the front of the refrigerator at the store it says icy cold drinks. Like, no shit, it's going to be a cold drink. It's coming from a refrigerator. Like, but because they're telling us it's a cold drink, we think it's going to be extra special that it's a cold drink. So even though we may know, no shit, like, it's going to be neurodivergent people that are in your program learning social skills, because neurotypicals don't care to advance their social skills because they never experienced problems with them. Like, we can know that, but by you calling it out, it's going to more specifically call in the people that you want. So I would keep that for sure.
Oh, great advice. Thank you.
Awesome. Wow. Okay. So we have a potential title. We have a pretty darn good niche. There's a bit more massaging in terms of how I would want you to, like, finish the naming of it. So I just want to be mindful of time. Do you have like 10 more minutes?
I do.
Okay. So the niche template, if I were to give you like a niche statement template, I do a Mad Libs for my clients. So let's Mad Lib together, okay?
Okay.
So what we would want is I help blank. So that's going to be who. And then a verb. So either do, become, achieve, etc. And then what? So what's the outcome? So like my first stab at your niche statement would be I help ADHD adults build stronger friendships or something like that. What do you think it would sound like? What's your first stab at it?
Yeah, well, I couldn't separate from what you were saying from what I was about to write because what you said was so good. So I was like, I help neurodivergents achieve stronger relationships, but I'm not sure if it should be relationships or friendships because, I mean, to me, it's probably friendships, but I think it could apply to dating. Um, but maybe if I want to be narrower, if that's the goal, maybe friendships is the right way to go.
Yeah,
I'm
so
certainly not
the
going to want to be like a marriage counselor here, right? Because there's just a lot of more nuances, right? Friendships is,
totally.
you know, so it's, and then I have to say, if it's building them or is it making them? Because those are different skills,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
right? Like,
So
so, and I think it's making them because I feel like, or maybe there's a part two. Here's how to maintain them.
oh my gosh,
You
look at you
probably know.
developing multiple coaching programs. Yes.
Yeah, because there's maintain like there's getting into one and the social skills involved in that, which I think is a lot harder than maintaining. Or I
Okay,
don't know.
so
They're both hard, but different skills.
and maybe they both would be involved here because let's go a layer deeper. What does making and maintaining friendships do for you? Why do you do that? Why does someone do that?
I mean, to me, it's like that's that's like where fun is, right? Again, it's like the joy and the fun, right? You want to spend time with interesting people who like to do fun things and then you go and you do that. And it's just like the great conversations, the learning, like just how if my whole life is spent alone, just reading things on the internet that are presented to me there, it's like it's just you're not even living,
Mm.
so I think like having friends, not that you need to be surrounded by friends 24/7, but it's just sort of the flavor that you're adding to life that makes life interesting and worth living is coming from the time you're spending with friends and family,
Mm.
doing things that you enjoy,
Is it
right?
specifically like IRL friends? Because it sounds like you're talking about like going and doing things together. Because I wonder that would be an even probably like more needed program. But I would want you to do market research. If you were my client, I would have you put together a survey with a couple of these key questions. But just based off of our knowledge here, I'm curious,
Yes.
what?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I was just thinking in terms of friendship, right? And relationships, it's totally different. And then the building and the making of it, all of it is, I would want to know from your opinion, like the in person versus the online piece. Is it specifically in person? Because it seems like ADHDers and neurodivergent folks have pretty decent online communities figured out because that's where we kind of retreated to, maybe. Because the in-person socializing was so hard. But what do you think?
I mean, the thing about like I don't think online is would be part of the program. Unless we're saying that that's a place to potentially meet somebody, but then the goal should be to make real life friends.
Okay, that's even more
Because
specific. I love it.
no, it needs to be real life friends.
Cool.
Because like you can I know multiple people that spend their lives sitting in a room on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not real life. Like it's better than sitting in a room with no computer. But that what actually is happening is you're never leaving that room because you're sitting on a computer. And so you're not interacting with real people, living life. You're living this, you know, this weird fabricated life. So I do think it's important to get off the computer and go outside and talk to real humans. So that I'm not saying that that's the only way that you have relationships, but it's the most important way. Um, and so yeah, and I think it's something that's somewhat of a lost art. It's becoming a lost art, and so there's more and more people that don't know how to do it. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think people are lonely, so they're going to the internet out of loneliness, but they really want some more meaningful connection than just being online. But for people that are neurodivergent, I think what's happening is that what makes it difficult for us to make friends is somewhat, I mean, somewhat it's like being afraid of rejection because we've experienced a lot of rejection, so we don't want to try because we're like, oh, they're probably going to say no. So we don't try. And then it's like once we do make a friend, sometimes we're not always responsive, right? We don't necessarily reply to the text like right
Mhm.
away, or we, you know, maybe we annoy
We don't
people because they
initiate the plans or whatever.
yeah, or disorganized. So like you tend to like I think I know some ADHDers you kind of like you know you go on some hyper focus thing for 6 months and then you know you don't
Mhm.
talk to your friends for a while and then you
Mhm.
come back and you're like oh like hey guys remember me. So like
Yes.
there's like some things that you know the internet allows for that because you're in this like online community and nobody cares how often you comment. You can go there and make a post anytime. You can comment anytime. It's there 24/7. It's at your beck and call with no one judging you and because nobody really knows you. But real life relationships require more maintenance and you have to give back to it on a
Mhm.
regular basis. And that's sort of the skill that, you know, I haven't always, you know, I'm still figuring out myself, right? Of how to
Mhm.
do this in the most effective way, especially because I, you know, like what is it I'm supposed to do? Please just tell me step by step. And then how do I remember to do those things? Because I have ADHD, right?
Mhm. I mean, I know you have more experience than you're giving yourself credit for because you've cited a partner and friends. So I know the information is in you. It's just helping you pull it out and order it and then build the actual materials. Um, because I know it's in you. Like we wouldn't have gotten this far if you don't have this experience and you wouldn't be so committed to the impact that you know these types of relationships can bring in your life and you wouldn't talk about them in such a like deeply meaningful way if they haven't been present in your life and transformed it. So I guess I'm going to assume that you have a lot more knowledge on this than you're giving yourself credit for right now and you probably just don't know it because you haven't sat down to specifically pull out, well, if I was trying to help someone who feels really alone in a new city make their first new friend, what's everything I would need to teach them? And then listing all that out and then ordering it and then actually developing the materials. But
Right.
it's there. So I just hope you recognize
Well,
like you have that knowledge.
some of it's there. I think where I need to do some research, and my thought on this is actually going to people who are really good at making friends and asking them what they do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but because when people tell you what they do, they'll tell you at a high level because they
Yeah.
don't think, no, I actually want to read the text you sent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to
Yes.
actually see it,
Screenshot it. Let me
right?
see.
Because
They did
and that's
actually
what
respond nicely back. Okay.
I think the neurodivergence, so I think we actually need like
Yeah.
here's a list of like here's my topic, and then there's an actual text already written for you. Right?
Yep.
Oh, you forgot to show up. Okay, send this one. Late,
Yes.
send this one. You know, like so you actually have like a booklet of texts to choose
Oh
from.
my gosh, that in and of itself would be such a valuable freebie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, like 10 texts you need, 10 templates of texts you need to keep your friendship alive or something like that. And then it's literally just texts that you have sent. That would be so helpful. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Can we build this program together? Because
Yeah,
like I
let's do it.
need it. I'm like,
I
I
need it
need it. My
too.
friends need it. Like, this is so cool. Okay. So now coming back to the niche statement, right? So I help who do what? What would you say it is at this point in our conversation?
I help neurodivergence make friends.
You know what's so great about that? It's short, so it's easy to remember. And so these are a couple of the criteria I look for by like to help me know that I'm done poking and prodding at you and your niche statement is good. So the first thing, super duper simple. So that's perfect because here's the thing. You will probably never say it the way that you have it written down, just because that's how our brains work, right? Like you might remember to say it the first 5 times, but then eventually you're going to riff off of it. But so the more simple it is, the better, because then you can say, like, well, these are the 5 words I need to make sure I get in. So then I'm going to remember those 5 words. And then you can actually more conversationally start talking about what you do, because the best thing for an idea in entrepreneurship is for it to get light. So for you to go start talking to people about, hey, I think I'm going to start this program and here's what it's about, is so good. So I love the simplicity of it, because now you can more easily go talk about it and socialize this idea, which is wonderful. The second thing that I love about it is it inspires the question, how? So whenever a niche statement is done, it inspires the question, how? So when I heard you just say that, my first thought was, ooh, how do you do that? Because that is something that's kind of uncommon, right? Neurodivergence, making friends, like what? That's how, right? And as your ideal client, like I would love to have more friends. I know there's cool shit I could go do around my city that I don't go do because I don't have someone to go with. Like,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
cool. Yeah,
Like,
I'm like, okay, I would take this program. And so personally, like hearing you say that, it's like, oh, that's what I want. How do I get it? And then that's where then we would need to be like talking about your marketing funnel and everything. But in terms of clarity on your brand, I really like it. The only thing I would add is something about in real life or like in person dynamics, because that, like, online friendship is a totally separate way of engaging, you know? So I would say
like IRL friends.
literally, that's what I keep picturing, like IRL friends or like friends in real life or friends in their town.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me it again.
I help neurodivergents make in real life friends.
I like it. Okay, would you want to be known as that? Like if somebody was asking you to give a TED talk in a year or 5, would you think like that'd be so cool if I
I
could
do.
confidently teach people how to
I
be?
do. I mean, it's badly needed. Like I mean, and I'll tell you that it's like the loneliness that comes with being neurodivergent and feeling rejected by your peers because we're a little weird, right? So we do experience a lot of rejection, and some of it's insecurity, and so we're manifesting our own realities there a little bit because we, at least I know I am. But it's
Mhm.
also times where there's people that just are mean to us or don't like us because we're a little weird. So I think we experience rejection on a higher than average rate.
Mhm.
So yeah, if there is a program that I can build that actually can solve this problem for people, um, that's a really big deal because
Yeah.
loneliness is a really big deal, and it's really sad for people.
Mhm.
In fact, I know somebody who is very close family friend of mine who's uh it was like it was like my other family growing up, right? This like
Yeah.
woman named Patty and her husband. So Patty died in 2020.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was sad, but her
Yeah.
husband, they were married for 40 years. He's very, very lonely now, right?
Mhm.
Because he doesn't have family and he doesn't have the best social skills. And so I'm just thinking, you know, of people like that, but he just sits in his house, right? All the time with his cat. And he's made one friend since she died, and it was somebody I introduced him to, right? So it's like,
Oh.
it's just one of those things where it's like if it's not there are people that need this because loneliness, especially in the after COVID, is just epidemic.
Yeah. And we know there's literal health side effects that happen when you're lonely. Like there's mental, yes, but there's also physical. Like there's so much negativity that can come from not having friendship. And also like the practical side of like if you need to borrow a cup of sugar, who the fuck are you going to call? Like you should ideally, right, from a social biological perspective, have a community around you because it insulates you from risk, but also the added benefit of joy and novelty and curiosity and being seen and known,
Yeah.
especially as as neurodivergent people that grew up, a lot of us late diagnosed too, but like regardless, just grew up feeling wrong, like something's wrong with me,
Yeah.
and to feel normal among a community, ah, sounds so nice. That's actually what I hear a lot about my Passion to Paychecks program is people tell me like I've found my best friends in this group because I am among my peers, like literally just being around other neurodivergent people normalizes yourself and your own behaviors. So there's so much potential impact for you to make even in just marketing this program because you will start normalizing for other people that it's okay and that they're not the only ones feeling alone and like something's wrong with them. And it's not that something's wrong with them, it's that they just need to learn these skills that you can teach them, not just in a passive course, but in a neurodivergent friendly coaching program that doesn't just give them the skill sets intellectually, like you said, like they could read the book, they know how, but they actually have the support to go practice and the tools to go practice, which
Mm-hmm.
is the value of coaching.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You're selling it.
I love
You
it, right?
do.
I'm like, I could sell the shit out of this program. Like, hell yeah, build it so I can help you sell it already. Like, that's so good.
I'm excited about it.
Wow. Okay, so how are you feeling about your niche? We started with some big questions. How are you feeling now after this conversation?
I'm feeling really good about it. I'm really impressed with how you kind of drew out of me where the passion lies, as opposed to sort of where I was intellectually inclined to take it, which is, kind of intellectually like, oh, where will I be able to find the clients with the most ability to pay and things like that. But I have to, then I have to remember that yeah, you really drew it out of me but what's interesting about this is that it's like, there's, what is there, 4 billion people on the planet.
Mm,
And so I don't know why I think I need, and I'm one person, how many people can I actually coach at a time? I don't need 1,000 clients. You know what I mean? I
mhm.
only need
Yeah.
like 10 or 20 at a time.
Yes.
Right. So then the market doesn't have to be massive.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I actually like what I love about this is that it's very near and dear to my heart. And so I want to create these materials.
Mm, mhm.
Yeah.
I love that. And there's no one better to create it than someone who genuinely has a heart for the work. And I feel very lucky to have been able to hear you talk about this. And I just hope everyone that hears this episode can echo that, Kelli, you just have such a big heart. Like you have so much love. And I can hear like this deep passion for helping people connect. And I mean, I like to take guesses where I think people will land, but I could see you ending up like leading in-person retreats for neurodivergent people and like friend social gatherings that end up being like a network across the country. Like you have so much technical skills behind you that there's nothing stopping this from developing into a massive brand of helping neurodivergents make friends, where there could be an app to find other neurodivergent people in your city. Like there's so much that this could grow into. And just hearing you and like your brain just talking with you, I'm like, we need you to be dreaming much bigger than just a coaching program because there is such a need for service in this area that I just want to encourage you to keep at it and keep going because yeah, I can absolutely see this growing into a massively impactful brand, and starting it with a coaching program is wonderful because you can actually develop your core materials for your program and then you can offer it in 3 different modalities. First, you can offer it asynchronously as a workbook that they work through on their own. Second, you can offer it as a group coaching program. So for the people that also want to be learning in a group. And then third, you can be offering it as one-on-one for the high ticket offer that, people that really want that high touch one-on-one, but it's the same core transformation. So now that you know your niche, right? The starting point of you've decided you want to make more friends, but you don't know how to do that, right? That's the starting point. All the way through to you feel more connected in your community. And that transformation can be done in any of those modalities, ideally, right? Group coaching or one-on-one coaching. not asynchronous because there's so much added benefit, right, to group, and then there's so much more added benefit to one-on-one. But still, you can, now that you have your transformation clarified, you're ready to start developing your materials. And that means that you're that much closer to your first client. Yay.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. I really
Awesome.
appreciate you taking the time to meet with me.
Yes, you're so welcome. I'm so glad we found each other on that Facebook group. Okay, Kelli, we have had such a good conversation. I just want to give you one last chance to ask me like any final niche related questions. It sounds like you're good, but like if there's anything specifically about your niche, let me know. Otherwise, I think we're good to go and you've got lots of clarity on your brand now. But anything else about your niche you want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And I can't wait to see you continue this work, get it out there, and start helping people with it because I know that it's going to change a lot of people's lives. So thank you for being here and sharing your story, being brave, and letting me hear where you're at with your business. Let me poke and prod and ask you tough questions. So just thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Sustain Your Passion podcast. If this episode helped you gain a bit more clarity, courage, or confidence, please share it with your friends on social media or in a text. It would mean the world to me. Thanks in advance for sharing this episode. I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.